Welcome to Behind the Scenes at the Hanover Theatre. Now, here's your host, Lisa Condit.
Good morning, everybody. It's so great to be here with you today. Cannot believe December. We're halfway through pretty much. And boy, if you're not in the holiday spirit now, just wait until after this program. You won't be able to help yourself. And I'm very much looking forward to speaking today with Brian O'Donovan. He is the host of our annual A Christmas Celtic Sojourn, and this year it is generously sponsored by Fletcher Tilton. Welcome, Brian.
Great to be with you, Lisa. Great to be with you, as you said, in what it seems now like the midst of the holiday season rather than the beginning of it.
I just can't even believe how fast December is flying by, and I just can't even believe your show is almost here. Of course, you're coming December 17th. That's a Tuesday night at 7:30. And this isn't obviously your first time to the theater. People love your show so much. They come back year after year. We were talking a little bit about at the break before this about how much A Christmas Celtic Sojourn has really grown. Can you tell us a little bit about how it all got started?
Well, it has grown. We will do 12 cities, or rather 12 shows in 4 different cities this year. And it started off just as a notion of mine to come out of the radio program that I broadcast on WGBH public radio here in Boston. And that was a Christmas program. We actually made national editions of the program, just exploring Christmas music. A lot of the Christmas music that we know comes from the Celtic countries and England. And it was just a nice program that I thought would go well with a live show. Well, when we started it in 2003 at the Hanover Theatre in Davis Square in Somerville, Mass., it sold out rapidly. And then the following year we added 3 shows and they sold out rapidly, and I knew something was there. There was a kind of a yearning for this old-fashioned holiday Christmas. We then moved to the Cutler Majestic Theatre, and very shortly afterwards we came to Troy Siebel's, manager of the then very newly restored Hanover Theatre in Worcester. And boy, were we surprised in such a pleasant way to see the reaction of the Worcester and Central Massachusetts audience. And that really marked our big foray into growing it into other markets. And as the rest, as I say, is history. But Worcester is a big part of that history.
Oh, that's so good to hear. And what's going to be nice this year, too, is that you're on the set of A Christmas Carol. So how are you planning on working that into your regular performances?
You know, that's one of the funnest things that happened last year, actually. We were, just because of the dates, we were in the midst of Christmas Carol, and previously we had gone through all sorts of painstaking efforts to cover up the set of A Christmas Carol because we thought it wasn't our set and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. We had our own production values on stage. But last year, because of the dates, we said, oh, let's use it.
Right.
And the Christmas Carol set in Worcester is just stunningly beautiful. I know it was designed very, very carefully, and one must have cost a significant amount of money to invest in such a beautiful set. So we said, why not use this beautiful set? And Troy and the other good folks that work in the theatre said, go ahead. And we did it, and it just absolutely blended beautifully with our show. We use it a little differently than A Christmas Carol does, of course, but it's this village scene. We use lights in the windows. We use the star effects. And it just really enhances the atmosphere of the theatre for our Christmas Celtic Sojourn. But again, to your listeners out there, that set, whether you see it for A Christmas Celtic Sojourn or, and I would say it should be, and see A Christmas Carol on it, it's worth it just to see the set to begin with.
Absolutely. And you know, it's so interesting too, because you mentioned at the beginning that a lot of our traditional Christmas music and some of our traditions come from the Celtic culture as well as the UK. And so it's so perfect that you have the set from, you know, the 1800s London town.
Right there. And,
right there.
And as I said, it's a great backdrop to what we do. And what we do really is an old-fashioned Christmas. You know, it goes everywhere from new and spectacular music that might not necessarily be holiday-oriented, but people strutting their stuff and musical step-outs and dancing, but also a lot of Christmas carols and stories and poems that people have told us they really enjoy hearing year after year. So what you said a little earlier on is true. We do bring back some traditions every year, the sing-alongs, for example. Some of the poetry that we use, people expect now, but we also look for new elements as well to make the party a different one, the gathering a different one each and every year.
You know what I love about this show is I've been to Ireland a couple of times, so I love when you're in Ireland, no matter where you go, the people are friendly and there's something going on, and the talent is always amazing. You can be in one of what to us here in the United States might seem like a relatively small kind of town, very small city, certainly smaller than Worcester, yet there will be world champion Irish dancers and singers and all of this talent right there accessible. And I think your show does a really nice job of recreating that feeling, and you do attract literally world-class performers for your production. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the different performers that you're going to have on stage this year?
I certainly can, Lisa, and thanks for your comments on that. That's really what we set out to achieve. A lot of people don't know the names of the people that we gather, but we do reach out to Ireland and elsewhere in the U.S., and people travel to be with us. And the one thing that we can guarantee is that you may not have heard their names, but you will know them after the show because they are world-class talent. And that's a feature of Ireland and Scotland and people involved in Celtic music here in the U.S. There's just so much talent around. This year, the band Solace, which is really a super group of traditional Irish music and contemporary ends of the traditional Irish music, has been around now for almost 15 or 16 years. And they travel the world with their particular brand of music. And boy, am I lucky to have actually secured their services as essentially the house band. They are the backstop for everything that we do, and including Seamus Egan, their founding member, who is our music director. But this year, we have moved in slightly different directions, which we are wont to do. We've got 3 singers, 2 from Scotland, Maeve Gilchrist and Maureen McMullen, who was star of a PBS national television hit called Highland Heartbeat from Scotland, and Moira Smiley, who is from Vermont, but steeped in the traditional music of Ireland. But in addition to that, we've got a hardanger fiddle player. Hardanger fiddle, you might ask. What is that?
I am. Well, I need to know.
It's a Scandinavian instrument, Norwegian in actual fact.
I'm Norwegian. I'm feeling connected, even more connected now. Oh.
There you are.
So tell us more about the Norwegian instrument.
Well, the Norwegian instrument is a fiddle from the Hardanger region of Norway. It's an absolutely beautiful-looking instrument, but sounding-wise, it has 4 sympathetic strings under the main strings, and so creates this hauntingly beautiful sound. And Hardanger fiddle and Scandinavian music generally is being blended more and more with Irish traditional music, and there's a lot of interchange over the last 20 years. So we're going to specialize on that this year with a wonderful player called Marielle Vandersteel. We have also added brass. We have a brass trio this year that's going to give a big, big boost to the sound and create some really interesting effects. And we have a very interesting Appalachian musician coming to us, a guy called Steve Hickman, who is a great fiddler, but he also has he specializes, if you can believe it, in body percussion.
Oh.
But you'll have to come to the show to find out more about that.
I'm intrigued already.
Yes, you should be. It's really going to be fun. And a great dancer who's from Walpole, Massachusetts, Liam Harney, is choreographing this year, and he himself is going to be back dancing with us. So
really?
We're very, very excited with the young kids as well. That is another tradition of ours to have young children dancers who are spectacular, but all kinds of cute as well in addition to it.
Oh, absolutely. And I love the fact that you're somewhat local in that the Boston area is definitely accessible to us here. And so you, through all your time at WGBH and everything else you do, you've really gotten to know a lot of, like you said, the talent in the local area where...
I certainly have, yeah, and there's so much of it around here. But let me say as well, one of the things that I really love is that the audiences, we play in Rockport in a beautiful small venue up there called the Shallin New. We play in Derry, New Hampshire. We play in Providence. We've played out in Northampton. And, of course, Boston is our home. But there is something, and it sounds like I'm just saying this, but it's not. When the curtain went up first in Worcester, I was expecting the same audience that we had before in Providence. This is our first foray in Providence or in Boston, but this is our first foray out of the Boston market. And the curtain raised in Worcester's Hanover Theatre, and everybody in the audience was dressed for Christmas. That was a first for us. And they were just ready to sing it out. In Boston, they sing tentatively on the choruses. In Worcester, they start singing from the very, very get-go on any of the Christmas sing-alongs. And such was the warmth coming from the audience that we looked at each other and kind of smiled and said, wow, this is a special audience, and they really want us to be here. And that created a kind of an interactivity that makes the Worcester concert really very, very special for us year after year.
We do have enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm is an understatement, Lisa, I would say.
Okay, we've got gusto, and we are so infused with the holiday spirit that people can't help, like I like to say, feeling fezziwig. That's my little plug for a Christmas Carol all the time. But
that's a great line.
The whole city does take on a magical look, from the oval and the white lights and the technical school that did all the big W metal wreaths that are these beautiful sculptures on all light fixtures. It really is a really great time of year for all of us here in this community. We are going to take a short break, and then we are going to come back, and we're going to continue the conversation with Brian O'Donovan. Can't wait, and everybody stay tuned.
Now, back to more of Behind the Scenes at the Hanover Theatre and your host, Lisa Condit.
Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for listening as we continue our conversation with Brian O'Donovan here on Behind the Scenes at the Hanover Theatre, broadcasting on WCRN AM 830. Brian, so you sent us some great music that we're going to play snippets for our listening audience later, but do you want to take us through some of that music, maybe in the context of what people can expect if they've never been before, or what can they expect that might be different if they have?
Absolutely. The music that I've prepared for you guys is from past editions of the program. We record everything that we produce, and we often play it on NPR and Public Radio International nationally. But we're constantly looking for new material, and we often strike a Christmas tone, obviously in fairly direct form. For example, in this piece, where my own daughter, who is now 20 years old, sings a beautifully arranged version of In the Bleak Midwinter, which is a gorgeous song, and of course one of many people's favorite Christmas songs, one of my own. And we also go into different music that may not be so Christmassy, but actually wintry. For example, Ruth Moody, who plays with a group with my favorite name called the Wayland Jennies, regular star on Prairie Home Companion, she brought a Gordon Lightfoot song called A Winter's Night with You. So we balance it out between very Christmas music, direct music, but also music that's appropriate for the season. And sometimes at times we go into music that is just traditional Irish reels and jigs, which are indicative of the kind of hoolie that can break out when people gather at Christmas time with friends and family to celebrate basically being together, and that's what we are all about. So from the traditional to the contemporary to the unexpected, we have our female singer every year, for example, brings their own version of Oh Holy Night. Again, another Christmas chestnut, but it's amazed me, Lisa, over the years how many different approaches you can have to that beautiful song.
Absolutely, and that is one of my all-time favorites. I remember singing it in church when I was, between the ages of 8 and 12 when I was no longer welcome in church choir, got kicked out. That's a whole nother story. We'll keep going.
Maybe you'll tell that as a Christmas story on stage for us. That would be entertaining.
Oh, I'm sure.
But we often focus on music that is very much Christmas music on the other side of the Atlantic, but has not really kind of reached mass audiences here. One of those ones that we have is called the Christ Child Lullaby, which comes from Scotland, and we recorded a number of years ago with a very famous Scottish singer who was with us, called Dougie MacLean, and that's a beautiful version as well that we have for you.
I love all of the music from around the world. One of my favorite things about this time of year and this season and the music that you typically hear is you can go from completely joyous to serene, tranquil, and, like you said, hauntingly beautiful.
Absolutely, and we cover all of that. I mean, we're very careful to put together a show that, Christmas is a very emotional time of the year, for a whole variety of reasons. People sit and remember, they reflect on happy times, they reflect on people who are no longer with us, family and friends. It's definitely a reflective time of the year, but it's also a joyous time of the year that balances out. And that's what we like to think we do. We are not a show per se on the stage playing for the audience. We rather invite the audience to gather with us and celebrate what ancient Celts celebrated, the darkest time of the year. And the way they celebrated is by lighting fires and candles and making it a festival of light. And that's what we hope to do. Very, very simple principle and mission is to bring light into the theatres that we're in and bring the light of the people onto the stage with us, so everybody's celebrating together.
Absolutely love it. So, Brian, you must be fortunate enough to travel quite a bit.
I am, actually. That's one of the benefits of my job. There's frustrations of my job, believe me.
So,
one of the benefits is I do get to travel around.
Right. So you are such a busy person between your own radio program and then producing these shows and expanding it into the tours. And, of course, you also have not just a Christmas Celtic Sojourn, but a St. Patrick's Celtic Sojourn, which we announced a little while ago. We're going to be lucky enough to have that in a few months after we're
so
done.
Looking forward to that. Yeah,
I know.
absolutely.
That'll be really great. But when do you find time to travel and discover all of these new forms of music and instruments? And tell us your secret.
Well, there's no secret to it. I suppose, like it's just using every hour of the 24-hour period. You know, my wife and I talk about like we just have to take a night off, which means Monday and Tuesday might be a night off in a month that otherwise every other day is busy doing something. It's just it kind of feeds my passion. My passion is for music and arts generally, and reflecting on that passion, then I am in the lucky position to simply be a messenger.
I know,
and that's the role that I fulfill, is just to bring things in and say to people, look, you may not have heard of this, but this is something that you will want to see and experience. I really think that what the Hanover Theatre does as a performing arts centre is pretty much the same thing. You bring in very adventurous programming there, and you send people notices to say, look, even if you haven't heard this, we are a performing arts centre. We're giving it our stamp of approval. Come and see it. You'll not be disappointed.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, I feel pretty lucky. Like I've got a pretty great job, too, because like you said, we're the messengers of wonderful things. That's
exactly right. And there's nothing more important at any time, in good times and in bad. There is nothing more important than the arts. To me, it's an indication of the quality of life and the principles that we have as a community. And long may it be so.
Me too. I feel the same way, Brian. And I can't help but comment on, I heard you talking about how your daughter was the very talented vocalist who was performing that beautiful song you were talking about. And then you mentioned your wife working with you all but, say, 2 nights a month. So this has really become a family's passion, it sounds like.
It definitely has. And again, it reflects our principles. I've got 4 grown children now, essentially, and some of them have been involved in the show in the past. But largely, it's just that we're very much involved in arts and music, and that's what kind of defines us. And that's the atmosphere that we bring on stage. Is the atmosphere of a family, of a genuine family, and just inviting people to be a part of that. Not so personally, but yes, personally as well. But in the metaphoric way, is that we as a family, and I mean the people on stage and in the audience again, are just celebrating and discovering and reveling in what's going on at this time of the year as we gather to keep the cold away and the dark out.
I love it. So if anybody wants more information on this fabulous show, come check out our website at thehanovertheatre.org. And Brian, I'm sure that you'd like to send them to another website so that they can get more details as well.
They can. Hanover is where you can get tickets and more information nuts and bolts of what's happening in Worcester on that's coming right up on the 17th, in actual fact, of December.
Yes.
Tuesday night, and we're looking forward to being there. But generally, we have as well created a whole segment of our website, and I'm going to give that a web address in a moment. But we have created, for example, a Christmas Celtic music stream, 24 hours, where people can just at the click can listen to music, like a continuous radio stream of Celtic music that people have written to me that they're using for their cooking or for their decorating or for their present wrapping. It's just a great backdrop. We've also got 14 songs and tunes that we've recorded in past editions of the program that are available for download, free download for MP3, and a whole range of other things like videos from past shows as well that people can check out. And that website is WGBH.org/Celtic.
That is fabulous. And thank you for letting people know that you actually make this accessible. And that's really to get people all fired up and inspired to come and listen live, because there's nothing that replaces that live experience. So everybody, I want you to get ready for an enchanting night of Celtic music and dance, all to celebrate the holiday season, as Brian O'Donovan right here talking to us hosts a Christmas Celtic Sojourn on December 17th. Enjoy performances by some of the best musicians, singers, and dancers imaginable from around the Celtic world and beyond, all handpicked by Brian O'Donovan.
Great to be with you, Lisa. So looking forward to being in Worcester again, and we'll see everybody on Tuesday night, 17th at 7:30.
We are looking forward to it, and everybody will see you at the theater. Stay tuned for more behind the scenes after this break.